Hello, it's Helen Reed here. It is pretty windy today, so I am popping in to do a podcast episode inspired by a topic. I'm going to try and go somewhere where it's not so windy, but maybe there's just loads of wind. So I'm hoping that it doesn't affect the sound so much that you can't hear me. So I posted last night about lying in bed and like just being in the presence of God, and that just being there, communing, like experiencing the presence of God in my cells resulted in like this, I mean there's no other way to describe it other than this like orgasmic sensation rippling through my cells, and me just like kind of like moaning, like in Tom hadn't come to bed yet. I was just lying there, like I guess it's a kind of meditation if you want to kind of give it a name, but just like like so delicious, so beautiful, and so just natural. And then someone commented on my post saying like, I don't see I can't remember the exact wording, but basically I don't see an experience being present with God as a sexual experience. And I totally get that. The thing that was interesting was I was like, oh, but it wasn't like, although I used the word orgasmic and although I was kind of moaning and it was like pleasurable, it also, I have had other sexual experiences with God where it feels more sexual, but last night wasn't about it. I don't know, it was different. It was just about being and the essence, the life force essence of life just like coursing through my being and being in my cells and just allowing it all. So that just got me thinking, it's just so interesting the connections that we make with, obviously I use the word orgasmic, which in most people's world does relate to sex, but it's just, I guess, this breaking down for me, that it feels like there's a breaking down of the first of all the taboo that there's any kind of connection between God and sexuality, and also the breaking down of the taboo around women experiencing pleasure and women generally being in tune with their own sexuality and sensual expression, which is still really kind of frowned upon and looked down upon by many people, completely understandably, based on the last 2,000 years or 5,000 years or however far back you want to look. So the point here that I wanted to talk about was that it feels to me like there's this really strong connection, and I don't know if I've got the words to articulate it, so I'm just going to give it a go, but that there's this really strong connection between the God, like Mother, Father, God, the essence of all life, the creator, divine creator of all life, like the energy that is the source of all life, and what we would experience in our bodies as sexual energy, pleasurable energy, and pleasure. Let's keep it simple. And then also what we would experience in our body as peace. And it seems to me that there are these two parts of the human experience that we really deeply yearn for. And one of them is pleasure and one of them is peace. And what I've been noticing in my own journey, and this has partly come through exploring the concept of attachment. So a lot of psychologists talk about attachment and the importance of attachment from a very early age, and how people study and practice attachment parenting. I didn't from the very beginning of my journey as a mum, and I guess part of this exploration has been thinking about, wow, I didn't do that. What have I completely screwed up my kids, or is there something that I can do to I guess kind of like reverse the impact of not prioritizing their attachment, and while completely accepting that this is my journey and this is the journey of my lineage. I feel like every generation takes a step forward when it comes to embodiment of a deeper level of love and respect for humans. So, for example, I see that the parenting that I received, the love and the level of nurturing that my parents gave to me was a huge leap compared to what they received. And I'm sure that it carried, if you look back, that it has continued to be like that. And it feels like now we're living in a time where really quite big and substantial leaps are happening. And so when I think about my journey as a mother and thinking about the level of attachment and the level of love and nurturing that I have been able to give, and I was able to give when my kids were little. I mean, they're 9 and 7 now, so they're still pretty little, but people talk about that magic 7 years, don't they? And that's never really felt, whether it's because I know that I didn't do all the right things, but and so maybe I just want to let myself off the hook. But I've never felt like that 7 years, knowing about neuroplasticity and knowing that nothing is kind of hardwired. It never really felt like a big deal to me, the whole 7 years of programming thing. So what I started to explore, I was lying in bed one day, or lying down, or somehow getting present and connected with God and with source energy. And just what came to me was, well, if as parents we're really intended to be like placeholders for God for those first early years, then surely the deeper issue here, the deeper area of focus, if we're going to go like as deep as we can go, is to think about our attachment to God. And so then I started looking into this, and I listened to a podcast, and I was like, yes, and something really clicked with it, because it was like, and this podcast was talking about how basically the level of attachment kind of, programs our relationship to pleasure and our relationship to peace, and creates a level of automatic programming around how we experience that, and regulate our capacity for receiving pleasure and peace in our lives. And this just like fascinated me and totally blew my mind, and it made me just make it just kind of put to the forefront of my journey and of my focus, my attachment to God. Because I figured that if I just focused on that, then I couldn't really go wrong. Because not only was I going back to like the source of any potential inability to be attached to my parents during my childhood, but I was also then opening to a level of attachment in my relationship to God, and therefore what I'm able to give to my kids and in across my relationships, by deepening my connection and my relationship and my attachment to God. And I just can't recommend it enough. I can't emphasize how much this has changed my experience of life. And yes, it has impacted my capacity to open to and be open to a level of sexual pleasure that it continues to blow my mind and evolve. But it's more than that. It's to do with pleasure, but it's to do with sexual pleasure, but it's also to do with pleasure beyond sex, an orgasmic sensation in my body that is literally like the pleasure of life itself, which doesn't always have to be sexual. And I think that, but the sensation in my body, I mean, if you think about, I don't know if you've ever experienced, in a breathwork session, in a yoga session, in a meditation, that sensation of life force coursing through your veins, it's not dissimilar to an orgasm. And so that energy, yes, it can be experienced in a sexual context, but it doesn't always have to be. And I think it's really important to remember that. Because if you think about it, for me, sexual energy is life force energy. And so sometimes, yes, it has a sexual context and sometimes it doesn't. And then also speaking to the peace side of the whole concept, where, yeah, there's a pleasure side, but there's also this peace element, which goes hand in hand with the pleasure and is also a really important part of our inner stability and our inner it's something else that derives from that deep attachment to and connection to God as our primary source of security, of stability, of safety in our bodies. And I think it's so often missed. We talk about our nervous system regulation, we talk about all the things we need to do to keep ourselves feeling safe in our bodies. And for me, this going deeper, and focusing on my attachment to God as my source of all stability, all safety, all security in my body and in my that then ripples out into my physical experience, has literally just flipped everything upside down and just changed the game for me completely. So I wanted to share that. I am done. I think that's all. My sisters and my mum are still in Spain, so I'm going to go, and it's my sister's birthday today. So we are going to celebrate. We're just cooking a gorgeous curry, so I'm going to go check on the vegetables which are roasting in the oven and enjoy an evening with them. So I'm sending love, and I would love to know what you guys make of all of this.